Alright, so what is going on YouTube? Dark Empire, Spring, Dragonstar, and Adam versus Barles+Valas. This is the elimination match of, I think, Group C of Empire Wars Duo 2. We're gonna have these two teams coming up. The loser is out. The winner is getting into the decider game, which is gonna be played later next week. The decider game's winner will get into the quarterfinals and the loser is out. Both of these teams have lost their first round matches. I think the Brawlers have lost against Gamer Legion A, so Jordan, Taro, and Lily. And Dark Empire lost against MBL and Nikov, if I'm not mistaken. Dark Empire so far is the surprise team of the tournament. They have performed pretty decently, but AM was a little too tough for them. We'll see what they can do against Barles+Valas here. I think Barles+Valas should be the favorites. But Spring and Dragonstar have been grinding really hard, and there is definitely upset potential in them. We'll see what they can do against a slightly weaker opposition compared to Aftermath. The home maps, we have two closed home maps for Barles+Valas, Forest Pond and Canberra, and on the other side, Cape of Storms and Kawasan are the home maps of Dark Empire, one hybrid map and one sort of open-ish style map. Looking at the civilizations real quickly over here, looks like the Brawlers will not pick Pause. They were the only team so far that actually picked Pause in the entire tournament. They did that on Hidden Treasures against Gamer Legion A, but they ended up losing with it, so that's the only game that Pause have been used so far. It looks like we're gonna have no new civilizations being picked for the time being. With that being said, I think we are good to go with the first game of the day, so let's jump straight in. Welcome to Empire Wars Duo 2 Decider set. What am I saying? It's not deciders, it's elimination match. Well, it decides a lot of things, that's for sure, but it's not actually a decider in appropriate group stage terms. There is going to be one team going home after this one, and the other one is going to fight for a chance for the quarterfinals later. We're going to have Barles+Valas in cold colors. Bars will be playing as green Berbers, and we're gonna have Vietnamese for... Wait a second. Okay, Valas is green. I still have to wake up, it's morning. So, Valas is green as the cavalry player with Berbers, and Vietnamese will be Barles here in blue. Other side, we're gonna have Dragonstar as Red Britons, and Indians for Spring in yellow. That is a bit of a surprising selection, but we have seen Indians performing really well on this map. In particular, I think that it was Hera that really showed how to use Indians. You have to go very heavy into scouts, and then sort of play a mixture of light cavalry and camos. Because the extra piercer on the light cav means that you have a pretty decent force against archers. Camos alone probably won't crack it, unless your teammate is very good with archers, as... Oh, Bars was thinking about trapping that scout over there. Whereas on the other side, for now, looks like Valas will be walled. This is actually a pretty nice base for him. A lot of space at the back over here that's very safe. What I kind of dislike is that there is a hole here that he may not actually spot, and I think that's actually the case. He will not spot that hole, and that's going to hurt really badly. On the other side, we do have archers moving forward already. This is an important move from Bars. He is going to be able to pick off the first archer with the scout. That's very, very valuable. And it looks like it's going to be an even trade of scouts at the end. Spring and Bars will trade off their scouts. Valas is coming in here to relieve his teammate for the time being. We'll have Dragonstar already walling himself on the left. We'll come with some long walls on the right side. And for Spring, he actually started walling. I talked to a lot of people about the performance of Spring and Dragonstar, and the consensus vote, or the consensus opinion, was that if Spring starts to wall, he's going to become a much stronger player in this tournament than he was in the previous rounds. He was very, very resilient, not walling in many sets, and that was his demise in many ways. This time around, he is going to wall, as the archers and scouts are now marching towards Dragonstar's base. They could potentially take a shot on the villagers, but it's unlikely they can pick it off, so might as well just move on and try to pick that spearman off, try to get those scouts in before the walls close, but that has already happened. A lot of idols here for Dragonstar. That's a huge amount of idols for who knows how long. 30 seconds? 40 seconds? 6 idols is far from ideal. Obviously, he's focusing over here, but there was definitely an idle time issue. Over there, scouts arrive as well, and this fight seems to favor Dragonstar and Spring over here. Bars could easily lose these archers in this one. There is no upgrades on the scouts whatsoever. The archers do have fletching. There is also armor for Dragonstar. Armor is just now coming in for Bars, just in time for this fight, but still, it's just gonna be insufficient. And with that, all those archers do go down. That's a problem, because the Britons already outproduce you in archer numbers. If you lose archers like that, you will suddenly fall behind really badly. You see that there is already 10 archers for Dragonstar on the field, only 6 for Bars. Bars has 6 archers in queue as well, but his numbers aren't promising so far. He also had to make a defensive tower over here, so he will play 1 TC most likely with fast ballistics and maybe even fast Thumbring. Other side, we're gonna have Valas coming in with Castle Age. He's also going for a market, surprisingly. He doesn't necessarily need that, so it's a bit of a surprise over there. Castle Age is also coming in here for Spring. And considering that he's not adding any scouts, I don't think that he's actually gonna play Light Calf here. He'll probably just go full camel. But I'm not really a big fan of full camels. As I said, the only condition under which full camels works is if your archer player can outplay the opponent's archer player. Now, that might be a possibility here, because as I said, Dragonstar could easily outproduce his opponent in terms of archers, but that's still a risk that you are taking. Nonetheless, you are gonna have slightly better Castle Age time for Bars over here. In fact, Dragonstar has not clicked up just yet. Seems like he was a little too late on gold, because he's definitely lacking gold. That's going to be precious seconds lost here, going into Castle Age. He is the last one to click up, and he has a 1-minute deficit compared to his archer counterpart. First one to Castle Age will be Spring, going for a second TC, 2 stable camel build over here for him. He's not actually going for the second defense upgrade, just going for the eco first. Looks like they are content to just sort of apply this pressure over here and let Spring build up his camo numbers. The interesting question is what the Berber player is gonna do, because the Berbers could easily mix in a couple of their own camos to try and battle those camos a little bit more efficiently, as that is going to be no villager killed. Bars saves that low HP build over there. Husbandry coming in really fast here for Spring. He already has +1 defense in, and Boso with 2 TCs. He's going to focus very heavily on the eco, whereas on the other side, that's a triple stable Knights build from Valas. So it looks like the Brawlers want to go for a pretty aggressive Castle Age over here with Berbers. They kind of have to, because they don't have Paladin available, and even if they had, they would die to Imperial camos. But overall, picking Berbers for this map in a 2v2 is just a sign that you are going to play very aggressive. So probably that's the reason why Spring is actually going for a lot of walls, 3 TCs, and just mass camos behind this one, as the camos will intercept a couple of those knights over there. The scout also is gonna go down, and now it's crossbowmen from Bars, so these camos will have to retreat. They only have 2 pierce armor, which is far from ideal. And this is what I was referring to. The only way that full camo works is if your teammate is actually going to outplay the opponent's archer player with archers. That may happen, especially because you're gonna have the extra range. In exchange, though, you won't have Thumbring, so in close combat, that's going to cause problems for Dragonstar. He's going for University right now. Crossbows are already in, so he should have no trouble holding this one off. The gate is gonna go down, but I don't think that Bars and Valas will commit against this one, even though there is ballistics for Bars and there is no ballistics for Dragonstar. That extra range allows those Briton crossbowmen to just contain this one and just keep these forces out until Spring arrives with some additional reinforcements. Spring could also try hunting for a couple of reinforcing knights here, because they're running across the map, so you could just have a couple of camos trying to get some hits on. That would be valuable. Spring, still only the first defense upgrade is in for him, so he's gotta be very careful, because his camos will die like butter to those Vietnamese crossbows. For now, Spring is gonna have a pretty decent boom though, and that's not something that should be underestimated. He's the only player from the cavalry players that has more than 1 TC, and on the other side, Dragonstar is also on 2, so I kind of feel like Dark Empire is actually sort of taking over in this one a little bit, because the army numbers are pretty close, but behind this one, Dark Empire is a much better boom. And that's starting to show, because now the villager count is swinging in the favor of Dark Empire. That +2 defense missing is really bad right now for Spring though, and they could easily lose a game in such a fight. Those are now Vietnamese crossbows with the heal, +2 defense, more HP, but apparently insufficient amount of knights will be the demise here of Valas and Barles. The Camels trying to get a good surround, just trying to limit the movement of those crossbows so that Dragonstar's crossbows can clean them up. And I think this fight was slightly better for Spring and Dragonstar. Not that much better though. We got Artiek with the second month of Prime Sub. Thank you so much. Welcome back. I appreciate it. So at this point, everything that's an even fight or slightly better for Dragonstar and Spring is actually amazing for them, because they have 5 TCs combined, whereas their opponents only have 2 TCs combined right now. Valas is just now going for the second and third TC over here. So already 60 vills for Spring, although truth being told, Valas has 54 with 1 TC, so Spring apparently wasn't able to consistently produce villagers on all 3 of them. You see, there is a lot of idle time here, so this could have been better here for Spring. Obviously, he wants to focus on making camels. Now he's doing that on 4 stables. But still, Indians, cheaper villagers will help with your boom as well. And now you get a bunch of Indian camels that are capable of destroying buildings really fast. And you got a bunch of Briton crossbows that can deny that gold mine. And boom. Now Barles struggles to access gold, the camels do break in and they can easily jump town centers over here. 23 crossbows are out there for Barles, but they're heading towards the base of Spring. This is risky, this is really risky here for Barles. Because at this point he has to make a defensive tower, has to run for his life. This is a very, very weak spot on his base. But they are probably very motivated to break into Spring's base here. This is a massive risk for Valas and Barles. If this doesn't work out, Valas is, or Barles is gonna die, but it looks like since Dragonstar and Spring are all heading towards Valas, this might work out. Here comes Spring with a massive quick walls. That's a lot of knights coming in. The crossbows are lagging behind a little bit, so Spring could actually take down a couple of knights before the crossbows arrive. But once those are there, this is gonna be a tough one for Spring to handle. Just goes for the contingency walls. Even the wolves join the fight. It looks like the gamble is paying off for Barles and Valas, because Spring and Dragonstar left the base of Barles here. If they just break in here, they could have destroyed Barles. But now this is a little bit troublesome for Spring. He's gonna have to idle a lot of his farmers. On the other hand, Barles and Valas are running in very, very deep, and they could easily get trapped. That's a lot of camels that are coming from the back. And behind this one, it looks like those crossbows also managed to pick off a couple of reinforcements and pick off some villagers on the wood line over here. It looks like they're even jumping TC, so Spring will be forced to fight. It's not a huge amount of crossbows. As Dragonstar is going into Imperial, I think this is something that you can jump. This is not going to be very efficient here for Spring, and you see that the knights are trying to disengage, but it is enough to make sure that Spring's eco is still pretty much intact. He's got 40 idols right now, which is obviously far from ideal. But at this point, Dragonstar is imping with 56 crossbows, whereas if you look at Barles, he's barely gonna have any crossbows remaining. So yeah, Spring definitely took a beating, and now he's down to 58 vills. But if you look at the army numbers, it's 90 to 41, so the eco is now in the favor of the brawlers, but army numbers decisively in the favor of Dragonstar and Spring. And those 29 camels can easily destroy TCs as well, so it's not like you need an awful lot of siege here for Dark Empire. They could just jump these TC if they want to. Third TC coming in as well for Dragonstar, as he's in all certainty going to reach Imperial without any problems. He's gonna have 64 Arbalests with Britain's extra range, as they're now marching into the base of Valas. And there's actually more damage output against buildings in those camels than you have in those knights, pretty much. Plus, you have a huge amount of crossbows here. Not necessarily the best fight here for Dragonstar. He can't really use the Britain extra range, because guess what? His own teammates' camels are blocking him. So this was a far from ideal fight, as Spring could easily take down a couple more knights. 32 camels. Overall, the army numbers are decisively in the favor of Dark Empire. And Imperial Age is on the way for Barles, but that's going to be a long, long time until that happens. Forward Castle here by Dragonstar, not really denying any resources. It's more like a staging ground for Trebs. I am fine with this castle because it is guaranteed to go up. A more aggressive castle would be in the risk of getting denied. I think this one is safe, and it's going to give a chance for Dragonstar to start trapping down those production buildings. And I kind of feel like Barles won't have the time to get to Imperial. He's going to lose all his crossbows on this battlefield. Once Bracer comes in, these orbs will just eat everything, even without tumbling. And now camos are running in. The eco of Valas is going to fall apart. And, well, Arbalests with 10 range over here, they will just pick apart the eco of Valas. Valas has 21 idols, so really, even though he technically has the eco lead compared to Spring, the amount of idols that he has pretty much nullifies that one entirely. A defensive castle is in the making here for Barles, something that Dragonstar sees and something that should motivate him to go for traps immediately. And this is where those 10 range orbs will just be so useful when it comes to just controlling the map. Picking off those villagers from such great distances. Indeed, traps are coming in right now. Camos now will jump the town center. This is the moment that they've been waiting for. It's way too many camos to fight against for Barles and Valas over here, as indeed all those knights do go down. And if you look at the other side as well, the eco of Barles is falling apart. Now Dark Empire takes over economically as well. 58 villagers only for Barles, but I mean, he's trying to go Rattan Archers, which could work in the long run. But while he's going Rattans, first of all, he can't make traps. He only has one castle, and what's even worse is that his teammate is now getting absolutely stomped. So that's something that's worth mentioning as well. You see, Barles having issues with resource income. There's a second trap coming in already, and indeed, seeing all these camels, seeing all these orbs, the brawlers throw in the towel. And ladies and gentlemen, as I said, don't underestimate this duo, Dragonstar and Spring. They are massive underdogs in this entire tournament. In fact, many probably wouldn't have expected them to qualify, but they did, and boy oh boy did they qualify, and now they're playing really well. If we look at who they qualified against, I always forget. They defeated the #1 seed. Let's talk about this for a moment. #1 seed of the qualifiers, Kaposh and Lan. And Spring and Dragonstar defeated them, got into the main event of Empire Wars Duo 2. They lost to MBL and Nikov, but obviously MBL and Nikov are one of the strongest teams in the entire tournament. Now they're looking strong though, and they really want to get into the deciders over here. Very well played by them. I was skeptical about the Indians, but really the civ that carried this, I believe, was the Britons. Because you could tell that Dragonstar was just able to mass a lot more crossbows, plus cheaper Briton TCs meant that he was always 2 TCs when Barles was on 1. So he had an economical lead, and he was also able to outproduce his opponent with crossbows. That KD tells a lot about the game. 92 kills, 30 deaths over here. Spring's KD is pretty even. Obviously, camos alone don't do that well, but this game was sealed by Dragonstar's Imperial, and it looks like he was able to use Britons in a very, very nice fashion. So, this means that Spring and Dragonstar are actually going to take game #1 over here, and that also means that we're going to the first home map of Barles and Valas. Let's take a look at what home maps are available. Barles and Valas have Canberra and Forest Pond. This is an interesting situation, because the thing is that you have 2 closed maps, but in the first game you actually try to play an aggressive Berbers game. So you try to be very aggressive in the first game, but you have 2 home maps that are much more slower paced. It's not necessarily an approach that matches up with what you did in the first game, so I'm not necessarily a fan of that, but maybe they perform better on closed maps. They'll have to. So let's take a look at game #2 over here. Canberra, we're going to a map that was added to Empire Wars Duo for this event. It wasn't actually part of Empire Wars Duo 1. It's a closed map, a little bit like Arena, but there's a lot of spice added to it. For example, you are only walled with polycyanid walls, you have bays over here leading to your base, you have one little deep fish in the middle, but that contains 30,000 food. The map itself is smaller than generic 2v2 maps. You see all this dark area on the outside means that this is much smaller than a standard 2v2 map. Very, very aggressive map, even though it kind of feels like an open or a closed map over here. So, as I said, those walls are a little bit deceiving because this map is far from safe early on. Anyways, we're gonna have Dragonstar with Chinese over here in red and Teutons for Spring in yellow. Kind of feel like they just went for the standard archer plus cavalry combination. Not necessarily a big fan of that, because I feel like this map definitely invites a lot of cheesy strategies. Koreans for Bars is definitely going to be a better civ, I believe. As you see, he's walling off this bay, potentially trying to avoid a landing inside his base. Koreans will give you access to guard towers, which could control the middle fish. Koreans also give you access to turtle ships, so I actually like it a little bit better. It also is a decent archer civ. And Burgundians for Valas, that's also a very good civ economically. You see he already has bow, so researched. A dock is up for Spring, so he definitely wants to do some fishing, as the scout is now coming in to intercept that villager. The lady should survive for the time being. Looks like Spring is going straight to Castle Age here, almost ready to click up. He's gonna be the first one to go up to Castle Age. So, I think in the long run, Teutons will be an amazing civilization. There is a lot of things to love, as apparently the lady keeps the gate open because the spearman is able to now just chill there under the gate. The scout goes in, but this is actually a mistake, I believe, from Valas. He's going to lose his scout over here. Obviously, information gathered here is very important, because he will see what Spring is up to. Spring tries to trap that scout, but that's going to be unsuccessful. So, Teutons definitely have a lot to love about them on this map. Conversion resistance is one of them. So, being able to resist conversion, not just you, but your teammate as well, because it's a team bonus, that's helpful. You got some super strong cavalry as well. You don't really need mobility for this map, so powerful but slow cavalry is perfectly fine over here. Other side, Chinese, generally a very good civilization. Looks like it's just gonna be a straight archer play from Dragonstar in this one. And look at this little bay, it looks like a campaign map with all those walls. And then there is a dock coming in here. Speaking of docks, that's the first fire galley that we are seeing, and it looks like Spring didn't really expect their opponents to go for any kind of aggression here on water. That's gonna be 2 fishing ships down without pretty much any resistance. Look at this bay. Look at this bay. Anyways, Valas is on the way to Castle Age, so is Barles. Last one to reach Castle will be Dragonstar, pretty much at the same time as Barles. So, at this point, from what I'm seeing for Spring, it looks like he is going for a very similar approach than what he did in the previous game. Some aggression with knights, and then you are gonna have some TCs being added. Obviously, Teuton's cheaper farms helps quite a bit, so you can actually facilitate a pretty decent boom. And remember that a knight's push is much more efficient with Teutons here, because guess what? You are resistant to conversion, so it's much harder for the opponent just to defend with 3 monks, let's say. Now, what is Barles up to? Oh, he's going straight War Wagon. Okay, that's gonna cause problems for Dragonstar over here. He's got some of his walls reinforced, but stopping War Wagon with crossbows is going to be utterly painful. And it doesn't help that your cavalry player is gonna have slow-moving cavalry. Early on, you probably want to go monk defense against this one, to be honest. If you are Dragonstar. Spring looks like he went for the dog, did some fishing, but really doesn't care about the middle at this point. Didn't make a single fire galley to fight this one. Instead, both players from Dark Empire are actually going for a free TC boom, so they're just big boomers. Big boomers. Crossbow is now breaking in. This is the moment where Dragonstar's gonna realize that, oh shoot, there's a castle. That's a problem. Knights coming in as well. There's definitely a lot of surface to attack, by the way, so one of the ways that you could actually force your opponent to stay back home would be to push this angle, because you could easily break through this gate and push into the base of Barles. Elite Skirm for Dragonstar. That's not necessarily a long-term solution, but it's perfectly fine short term, and what it gives you is a chance to just boom. Because if Barles is going for this sort of fast castle unique unit style play, he is going to be able to just play with 1 TC. So the eco of Dragonstar should be a lot better. On the contrary, I think that considering that we still have a lot of stone being mined by Barles, Barles will drop a second castle, and that castle will be right over here somewhere. So at this point, I think Dragonstar needs to start mining stone, because a defensive castle might be vital here. Cavalier already in for Valas with +1/+1. Spring's got +2 defense in as well. He's got the extra melee armor from being Teutons. Still, this army is actually slightly better for Barles and Valas, but this is still alright for Dragonstar and Spring. As long as they are fighting in the middle, that's a dream for Dark Empire. Because guess what? As long as you're fighting in the middle, we can just boom on 3 TCs, and both players from Brawlers have just 1 TC. We already talked about the 13 villagers lead. So looks like they're actually gonna open up the walls over here so that the skirms can fall back. But it's a little risky. It's very risky, in fact. Now there is an opening. This may have been a mistake here by Dragonstar. This may have been a vital mistake. He opened that wall to save a couple of skirms and crossbows, and now suddenly a bunch of war wagons and Cavalier come in. I think, in fact, what he should have done is just make a stone wall behind. Slow this down as much as possible. Knights are still coming in, and I think that this is enough to hold this, but you see that he has to abandon his gold mine, and once that castle goes up, it looks like they will play this one safe and just place the castle over here. Suddenly, you are in serious trouble, and the turtle ship just sails into the bay over here. The eco of Dark Empire is much bigger, but this army is a lot scarier. War wagons and turtle ships coming in here. Suddenly, you're gonna have a tough time holding these production buildings, and you won't be able to reinforce. This is why I said that I think Dragonstar needs a defensive castle ASAP. A defensive castle would actually hold this one very nicely. Monastery now coming in as poor skirmishers are trying to take down the turtle ship. If the monastery comes in, any unit converted is going to be really hard to convert back, so I think if Dragonstar can nail a conversion on that turtle ship, that's actually really helpful for him. Here come the Cavalier and the Knights as well. Turtle ship still in the party over here. Monks are coming in for Dragonstar. Remember that behind this one, Spring has an untouched boom. Speaking of untouched, here come the Knights inside his base as well. Spring is going to have to get some conversions because Cavalier are now pushing his economy, and it looks like Spring was unprepared for this one. As another castle comes in here. Now that's an aggressive castle over here. And this is what I was talking about. You see, Spring is sending the monk to convert the turtle ship, but behind this one, Spring's eco is falling apart. He isn't even noticing that he's getting slaughtered. And I cannot help but wonder that 3TC boom as a game plan is just not right for this map. Now, is this castle going up though? It's gonna be dicey. Not a huge amount of villagers over here. There is enough war wagons to fight this. But, oh yeah, this castle is going up. It is going up, and Spring isn't noticing this. Spring is losing so many vills. He's down to 44 with 3 TCs. This game is over. This game is over. I mean, the villager count is dead even, but Dragonstar is getting absolutely slaughtered. And Spring, look at this. I think he now noticed, but now his entire eco is idle. And the difference here is that we have triple stable Cavalier production. Much more aggressive gameplay from Barles and Valas. Now it's guard towers as well to solidify this position. And with that stone mine being over here, these villagers will just mine stone. And that's it. Now it's dead even villager count. Dragonstar's vill count is still pretty decent. I just kind of feel like Spring has no tools to stop this. Spring will have all his eco idols. He's got 46 vills, 43 of them are idle. So, really, no one is actually working for Spring. So, at this point, it's basically 2v1. And if these Cavaliers just start pushing this angle, suddenly Dragonstar is gonna be in even bigger trouble. Dragonstar is mining stone like a madman now, so I think he wants a defensive castle, but honestly, against Koreans, you probably have to consider war wagons an option and just go for stone mining early. Sort of preemptively go for a defensive castle, or at least have something like 300 stone in the bank, so you can buy yourself a castle if needed a little bit easier. So, war wagons now rolling in. Obviously, extra Pierce armor means that they can just camp beneath town centers as well. Skirms actually perform pretty decently against them. So this is not something that you want to sustain. Bars playing 1 TC Imperial here means that he's gonna have keeps, he's gonna have trebs out, and I just don't see this one happening because, yeah, defensive castle is now great for Dragonstar, but it's just gonna get trapped down. And even if it wasn't, Spring's at 46 villagers right now. Truth being told, he only has a 10 villagers deficit compared to Barles, so it's not like their eco is that bad. In fact, if you look at it, the ecos are still surprisingly close. But from a game where Dragonstar Spring was just building their strategy on a massive boom, that boom is gone. That boom is just entirely gone, and Dragonstar won't have the tools to kill traps here. The only thing that he can hope for is that Spring is coming in with Knights, and he will just destroy those traps. Blacksmith goes down over here from Spring, so he won't be able to get Iron Casting for his Knights. It looks like the Wagons are now going to Spring space. Nice reaction from Dark Empire to send in the forces here. Armies are still pretty close, but I kind of feel like I'm more convinced about the army of Barles+Valas over here. Cavalier with +1/+2, plus you have War Wagons, and it's only skirms here. If the skirms can take shots on the War Wagons, that's great, but this is why you see Valas just trying to snipe down as many skirmishers as he can over here. Obviously, behind this one, Spring's eco is far from ideal, and Dragonstar is not going into Imperial, so I don't see this castle being... Oh! Is this castle foundation going down? Nope, it isn't. That was actually a little bit scary for Bars, because he started building with like 2 or 3 villas, which means that the castle didn't really have a lot of HP when the first volley of arrows came in, and that almost meant that that castle foundation went down. Skirm's now heavily mispositioned, and the Cavalier are coming from the back to surround them. All those skirms, I think, are now going down. So, at this point, Imperial is in for Bars, and he has 3 castles here, so that means pretty much 3 traps immediately. In fact, he could even make a trap here if he wanted to, but that's probably better for War Wagon production. Indeed, the Brawlers will just win this game over here. Spring and Dragonstar tap out. I kind of feel like Spring and Dragonstar didn't have a good game plan for this map. This map is very, very cheesy. A lot of crazy strategies can work, but one thing that we have noticed is that booming is not a thing like here. It's not like Arena where you just sit back and boom. And I kind of feel like their game plan was just, okay, I have 2 very good booming civs. Chinese, amazing. Teutons, amazing for that. And they just went 3 TC boom both, and then got steamrolled by a 1 TC War Wagon into fast imp arbs. So, I kind of feel like at this point, they weren't really aware of how cheesy this map could be. Because this map, as I said, is much more aggressive than it initially looks like. It seems like, oh yeah, we're fully evolved, but reality is that this map is a 1 TC push style map, to be honest. Or at least so it seems from the games that we have seen. So Teutons and Chinese, 2 pretty valuable civilizations gone here for Dark Empire, and we are even Steven with the score over here. So, let's take a look at the remaining maps. Cape of Storms, Kawasan, or Forest Pond are the possibilities. From what I have seen, it might be better for Dark Empire to open with Kawasan, because that's a little bit slower paced. Cape of Storms can be really punishing, and after losing a game like this one, I kind of feel like you want to go for a little bit of a slower paced map to start with. Looking at the civilizations real quick, you have Persians probably for Cape of Storms, Forest Pond is Italians, Cumans probably Cape of Storms, so actually you have Persians for Cape of Storms, but you also have Huns. I think you go Cumans, Huns on Cape of Storms, with Cuman flank, Hunnic pocket. You go probably Persians, Italians on Forest Pond. Or potentially Persians could go to Kawasan as well. And then you still have a Khmer, which is a little bit awkward. There is definitely some flexibility over here, but I'm really unsure about the Kawasan civs of Dark Empire. Maybe that's Persians, and they go for something very different on for respawn, something like Byzantines, for example. That would be interesting in this one. Whereas on the other side, they do have Magyars probably for Cape of Storms, Franks for Kawasan. Spanish is a forest spawn civilization, so that's probably Spanish Malay. Maybe Bulgarians for Cape of Storms could be an interesting idea as well, but that's probably going to be Portuguese. Anyways, let's jump straight into game number 3 over here. So, Dark Empire versus the Brawlers. We are heading to Cape of Storms, apparently. So, welcome to Cape of Storms. This is the third game in this best of 5 in between Brawlers, Barles+Valas, and Dragonstar and Spring, the Dark Empire. Very aggressive map that we're gonna have over here. Valas in the pocket as green Magyars, a civilization that mostly gets banned or sniped in drafts. Wasn't the case over here, so you can go for the cheap scouts with the extra attack at the beginning. Very, very nice opening for Magyars on this map. Cheap scouts, as I said, and you get free forging. That's a lethal combo in Empire Wars. We also have Mayans over here, which is another amazing civ for this map. Cheap archers means that you can just flood the map with archers early on. Other side is Cumans for Dragonstar, which is being picked here for the cheaper production buildings, but really that's all that you get from them. Mayans are clearly superior to Cumans here, and in the pocket, you're playing Persians, which is a bit of a surprise. I think Huns are generally a better civilization for this one, because what you need really early on is Scouts production. This map lives and dies with the Scouts player's ability to get fast bloodlines, fast upgrades, and taking one good fight over here. So I kind of feel like I like the civilization of the Brawlers a lot better over here. Mayans over Cumans, probably, and Magyars over Persians, absolutely. Persians start to shine after Castle Age when they get their knights, which have bonus attack against archers. But in Feudal Age, that has Magyars written all over it. That extra attack is really helpful, and you see that it is the Brawlers that are pushing back Dark Empire here at the beginning. Double ranges for now for Dragonstar, double ranges as well for Barles. But, as I said, the discount on the production buildings is a one-time bonus for the Kumas, whereas the discount on the archers is a consistent one throughout the entire game for bars, so you probably prefer Mayans over here. Scale barding already coming in here for Valas, scale barding on the way as well for Spring. For now, it's only one stable for both pockets, and we are gonna have Fishing Eco coming in for both pocket players as well. The flanks are not fishing for the time being. Looks like we do have a bit of a scuffle here, and the fast bloodlines comes in for Spring. That's actually a good decision, I think. If he can actually take a decent fight here with bloodlines and +1 defense, he could easily grind down those archer numbers from Barles. That fast bloodlines, as I said, could be very valuable. Now it's double stable scouts for Spring, so he is going to be able to outnumber the opponents here pretty easily. Second stable just now coming up for Valas, but Valas doesn't have bloodlines just yet, and that's where things could get problematic. Quick walls are coming in on the wood line. A couple of archers do get intercepted, but on the other side, the same thing is gonna happen to Bars. I think this is a fight that Spring could take, and he could easily take down a couple of those archers. There is one archer being picked off here by the scouts of Valas, and it looks like now Bars is diving in, a villager goes down from our red player, but now these archers are all trapped in here, and this map is very snowbally. One good fight, and you win the game. Those archers cornered in there, the best thing they can do is try to pick off a couple of archers, but that was a disaster there for Bars. Suddenly archer numbers are dead even. 4 ranges for Dragonstar, only 2 for Bars, but Bars wants to go to Castle Age. I think that's legit, because they are pushing the opponents right now, so even if they get pushed back over here, they will still have some buffer space before the opponents hit their base, so you have quite a bit of a time to get to Castle Age here. Especially because with Mayans, you want to be in castle faster than the Kuman player, and you just want to get to those nice and cheap crossbows, and not try to mess around fighting against 4 range archer production. But this is what I was referring to. if you invest your resources into Castle Age, suddenly the opponent is going to have better numbers than you do, and this is the win condition right now for Spring and Dragonstar. They have to overrun Bars here, grind down his archer numbers before the Castle Age hits. So, at this point, 2 more ranges are coming in here for Bars. If he gets to Castle Age and Crossbowman, I don't see a win condition for Spring and Dragonstar over here. Big fight coming in. The archer numbers are not very impressive for Dragonstar, and I'm also a little bit surprised about the scout numbers of Spring. The thing is that he is playing triple stable scouts, but apparently he is not producing consistently on those, and this is where the discount Magyar scouts can be really helpful. Yeah, sure enough, now everybody has forging, or at least Spring is supposed to have forging, he does not. But it's really the discount that you are benefiting from right now. Valas being able to flood those scouts is just brutal, and this buys so much time for Bars. Those scouts can now potentially hit a couple of villagers over here, and suddenly we're looking into 13 versus 8 archers, and what's even more brutal is that these will soon be crossbows. And at this point, Dragonstar will click up right now. Valas is also close to clicking up. Spring is nowhere close. So, as I said, Persians is a great civilization from Castle Age on, with the Knights, but you really are getting very, very minor bonuses for you in Empire Wars 2v2 for Persians on this map. Sure, faster working PC and faster working docks help, but Magyars with the discount scouts, the free forging, they're just a much better pocket civilization, and Dark Empire had the Huns available, which is probably even better than Magyars on this map, or at least comparable. Now it's 25 army versus 5 over here, and suddenly those scouts can just jump on the villagers. I am fairly certain that we're going to see Bars going for University and Ballistics, although it seemed like he would just casually play 5 range crossbow production. As I said, Castle Age on the way for Valas, which means that he is going to have +2 attack Knights coming in, and this mass migration on a map that is this snowbally is probably the end of the story. Barles+Valas started out a little bit rusty maybe, but now for the second game in a row they seem to be the stronger team. Dragonstar is gonna call the GG, and a quick strike back here from Brawlers. A very, very cutthroat and aggressive map. It is Cape of Storms, and it looks like this aggressive playstyle actually favors the Brawlers now. They definitely had the civilization advantage, but as I said, part of the reason why is because there were some interesting decisions, I would say, from Dragonstar and Spring. Kumans is pretty straightforward on this map, but Persian Pocket is not something I'm necessarily a fan of. The thing is that they're amazing in Castle Age. So from Castle Age on, Persians are absolutely one of the best pocket civilizations here. The problem is that this map usually doesn't go into Castle Age. So you're probably picking the best scout civilization for feudal, and that is either Huns or Magyars. We haven't really seen Magyars on this map because everybody is just banning Magyars. They're so good in Empire Wars as a cavalry civ. As I said, discount on the scouts, attack bonus, that combination is just lethal as a cavalry civilization. Brawlers strike back, and suddenly Spring and Dragonstar, after winning Arabia, find themselves one game away from being eliminated from the tournament. They will need to strike back on Kawasan. They just lost their first home map over here, and now we'll have to go for their second home map. They still have Huns, and given the fact that they used Persians on Cape of Storms, I assume that Huns is the plan over here, alongside probably Byzantines. Whereas on the other side, we're probably going to have Franks and maybe something like Malay or Portuguese. I think Malay is probably going to go for Forest Pond. That makes a little bit more sense over there. Although Portuguese could be an idea as well. Portuguese, Spanish, 2 castle drop civilizations for Forest Pond. But Malay is also a possibility there. But probably Franks will be the pick here for Kawasan. alongside either Portuguese or Malay, whichever they're not using for forest pond. Other side, I think it's Huns plus Byzantines, most likely over here. Let's jump straight into the next game over here. Indeed, it is going to be Byzantines and Huns versus Franks and Portuguese. Welcome everyone to Empire Wars Duo 2. This is game number 4 in a best of 5 between Brawlers and Dark Empire. On the right side, we're gonna have for Dark Empire, Spring as Huns in yellow, probably his favorite civ. And to the left of him, it's gonna be Dragonstar's Byzantines in red. Down south, Portuguese for Barles in blue. And right side is going to be Franks for Valas in green. Valas is going to open with a stable for scouts. And now the real question that you are really supposed to think about here is, what will Huns do? Because nowadays, Huns probably prefer to play Cav Archers, but in such a civilization matchup, they have to play Knights, because the Archer's civilization is on the other side. It's going to be double range Archer opening here from Dragonstar. Other side, obviously stable opening here for Spring, not really doing a whole lot of walling right now. Here's the interesting deal. He keeps 4 villagers on gold, so I'm wondering if he's actually going to add some archers, and they will just try to play sort of 2 separate 1v1s over here. Second range coming in here for Barles as well. Portuguese will be generally better Archer civilization than Byzantines, but it depends on how well Byzantines can use their Imperial Age power spike. In this one, defensive tower on the berries for Spring, and it looks like these scouts are trickling into the other side. They're trying to intercept the reinforcements, and that may very well work out. That's actually very nice over there for Dragonstar. Picks off the Spearman, and now the Spearman takes down Barles' scout. Very good fight over there for Dragonstar. And behind this one, here come the scouts. They are double teaming Barles over here. The scout is idle for Spring, and the reason why is because he himself is getting pushed at home. No Spearman whatsoever for him right now. He now queues up 4 of them. There was 1 villager killed from Barles, now makes a defensive tower. 1 villager was also killed from Spring, as he jumps into the tower over here for now. It looks like Valas will disengage. There is no more scouts coming from Valas right now, as the archers are moving in from Dragonstar. Because Barles had to fight with his villagers on the gold, his archer production wasn't consistent enough, and those archers could get into the range of the tower. Looks like they could have made a run for it to just camp beneath the tower, but there were archers around, so they didn't want to take the risk. At this point, scale boarding is on the way for our green player, Valas over here, and remember, he's got the Frankish scouts as well. That's still a bad fight for him. He ran into the Spearman, eats 2 hits over there, and there is no Spearman support from Barles, so at this point, I think Spring can take this fight if he wants to. He doesn't have any upgrades, but there is no Spearman either to fight him. Looking at Castle Ages, no one is really close. There is some fishing being done by Valas, which is going to help quite a bit, because no one else is fishing, so that's a bit of an extra economy for him. Super safe for a time being. The Voids are coming up slowly for Dragonstar over here. He is just now going for a pond, adding some fishing ships. And it looks like they are once again going to double team Barles here, and we will have the push here happening on the gold mine. It's probably the best spot that they can hit, honestly, but it's still not a great target with that defensive tower up over there. Meanwhile, we're gonna have Valas moving up to the base of Spring. Spring now has defensive spearmen located across his base, so he should be able to hold this one, especially because he spots those scouts coming in. And now, this could be a problem for Barles, because Barles is heading towards the base of Spring as well. Spring doesn't have any upgrades on those scouts, and there is some very nice choke points here for those archers to take. But guess what? This is still a fight where most of the archers from Barles will go down, the scouts will engage, and that is a pretty big loss, I would say, for Barles, losing the majority of his archers. Behind this one, the scouts are gonna pick off no villagers for Valas over here. The scouts are now heavily damaged, and Barles has just lost a pretty big group of archers. But Valas is the first player to get into Castle Age here, and he's already going for Forging as well. He has a pretty decisive lead going into Castle, in fact. Second to Castle Age will be Spring, but obviously holding this against Knights will be a little bit of a challenge over here for him. Still, Scouts and Archers do arrive here as they're trying to get through these walls. Interesting, they're targeting the house and not the palisades. Market Wall coming in here for Valas to contain the damage. Doc is coming in on the left from Bar, so he's going to try and take a fight against Dragonstar's Fishing Eco, as Spring is going for some fish as well now. Nice contingency walls right now from Valas. Obviously, it's going to cost him quite a lot of wood to get this up, but there is a hole. There was a hole for a moment. One scout gets in, and that scout is already pretty annoying, because this will deny, or at least delay, any additional rewalling attempts. It's not going to be ideal, but you see that the plan now is that you are just trying to open this wall up. Castle Age is in though, so the Knights should be able to clean this up. Look at Spring with all these quick gates. All those quick... Look at Spring's base! He's got... how many gates is that? 3, 6, 7 gates surrounding his base over here. Who needs walls when you can just have palisade gates? So, double stable Knights right now for Valas, as Castle Age is going to be in for Dragonstar and Barles about at the same time. Dragonstar has to make a Fire Galley here. Obviously, Byzantines will like a Fire Galley fight against Portuguese, so that's probably fine for Dragonstar over there. Stone Walls, I like that from Barles. He really wants to make sure that no scouts can run into his base, but it might be too late. Now those scouts with Bloodlines +1/+1 are running past, and there is gonna be a hole there. September 1818, thank you so much for the second month of resub, welcome back. And this is a disaster for Barles. He needs to make the quick walls happen, and they are happening. Beautiful quick walls there from Barles. That may have just saved the game for them, because boy oh boy, 7 scouts at +1/+1 bloodlines getting onto your wood line is not something that you really want to see. Nice micro, by the way, from Barles with the fire galleys. But behind this one, he still needs to be careful about those scouts. Spring's base is now getting pushed, and this is where the weakness of those gates actually is going to show. Spring going for a TC over here on the gold mine, trying to secure that wood line as well. He would just try to jump the crossbows with the knights he has. He has +2 defense, so he can definitely take this fight. He's just waiting for crossbows of his teammate to come in. Looks like Dragonstar will be able to secure this pawn momentarily. No one is going for the War Galley upgrade just yet. And the scouts now run past the TC over here for Valas. He tried to quick wall this, but I mean, you can just run past the TC. And this gold mine could easily be hit while Valas is distracted. This group of crossbows also feels kind of open for picking. Looks like Barles comes back trying to pick off some wheels. There is no ballistics for him, and there is ballistics for Dragonstar. So Dragonstar can pick those villagers apart very, very easily, or pick those crossbows apart very easily. Plus, as I said, this scout raid actually acts as a perfect diversion. It won't do much, but killing 2 or 3 wheels is perfectly fine at this point with those scouts. Docks are still operational for Spring. He only has 1 fishing ship though. And oh, that perfect sandwich, that's beautiful. Spring comes in from the other side, and they will just surround those crossbows. This is the second time that Barles is going to lose considerable amounts of crossbowmen. Best thing they can do is try to grind down the crossbow numbers of Dragonstar, but Dragonstar is beautiful micro here. As I said, he's got ballistics and his opponent does not, and this is a massive win here for Spring and Dragonstar. More crossbows heading towards Spring's base, but honestly, Dragonstar will spot this with the Spearman. Spring loses 1 or 2 wheels here to the Knights, but the fact that they clean up the armies is still, I think, a little bit more valuable. Dragonstar ends up losing his fishing eco here at the end, but, I mean, he had what he wanted from it. It allowed him to go for a free TC boom, and that's what matters. Now he's got a free TC boom, whereas we only have 1 TC for Barles over here. The Knights actually got a pretty good surround here on the crossbows, way better than what it should have been for Valas. Valas does have +1/+2, same thing for Spring over here. Spring is only 2 TCs, same thing for Valas. Overall villager count slightly in the favor of the Brawlers. More crossbows are coming in though. Crossbow numbers are still pretty close. Knight numbers slightly in the favor of Spring over here, who is now adding some more fishing eco. And it looks like it's gonna be Barles who is now adding some extra fish here on this little pond. I think this is one of those moments where we have to start talking about Byzantines potentially using that cheaper Imperial and getting that power spike going. Because here, Arbalest could be a massive power spike, especially when your teammate has this many knights. You get to Arbalest, which means that you are guaranteed to win fights against either crossbows or knights, and the teammate's knights can just destroy buildings, TCs, whatsoever. So, crossbows knocking on those walls right now over here. Defensive walls are coming up for Valas. We also have some more crossbows trickling through the map, and there's gonna be no crossbows reinforcing the base of Valas over here. 21 knights versus 18, the upgrades are pretty much identical. There is Tumbling for Barles, something that Dragonstar does not have. And it looks like the two sides are happy to take this fight. That's actually a bad fight for Dragonstar and Spring. The question is, will it matter? Because they seem to have numbers advantage. They have a couple of spearmen in, and those are actually pretty helpful. Knights will pretty much just trade off against each other. And after that, I think that the crossbow numbers are better over here for Dragonstar. Right? 20 crossbows versus 21. It's actually dead even. This is a dead even fight. Tumbling obviously helps quite a bit over here for the blue crossbows. The good thing for Dragonstar and Spring is that this is happening inside the base of Valas. Which means that Valas is gonna have some idle economy, potentially losing a couple of wheels, some more crossbows coming in here to relieve the pressure, and a transport ship. A transport ship of 5 crossbows coming in here from Barles all the way through the sea. Will this matter? Probably not. Might kill a couple of villagers, it will be an annoyance for Dragonstar, but I like the move. It actually is good for style points, really. Look at all these crossbows. The fun thing is that they're actually going to the worst possible spot. If they just march straight up here, they can hit this gold mine and kill 5 vills. Here, these guys won't be able to do anything because they will just bump into walls. And it looks like now they will double team Barles. Barles has 41 crossbows, but those are scattered across the map. Some of them over here, some of them over here. And I think we're going to see a very similar game, or very similar thing to the Arabia game here. Spring and Dragonstar double teaming Barles. And we're also gonna have Valas and Barles double teaming Spring here. This time around, though, Spring doesn't have walls. So Spring is gonna lose quite a bit of an eco here. He's got 2 TCs to garrison, but I think Spring is getting raided a lot harder now. I did mention in the game number 1 that everybody I talked to from the AoE scene said that Spring is gonna be a lot better in this tournament as a player if he starts walling. And once again, no walls, he's getting overrun by knights. He's down to 48 vills. For reference, his cavalry counterpart Valas is at 92. His eco is falling apart, and once again, I know some people dislike walls. I hear complaints that, hey, I hate that you always bump into walls in Arabia. That's the thing. If you don't wall, you're just gonna die in the current AoE meta. Imperial Age is coming in here for Dragonstar, but Dragonstar will have to do one of the biggest carrying I have seen in a long time to make this happen. And the thing is that Spring is imping as... or not Spring. Valas is actually imping in a moment. Which means that there will be Cavalier. The Barles power spike only works if the opponents are both in Castle Age for a fairly considerable amount of time. And that's not really going to happen over here. So... now crossbows are pushing back Dragonstar over here. It started out so well for Spring and Dragonstar, but then Barles and Valas are showing why they're actually seated much higher. And you see these knights are just hunting for those crossbows. Crossbows hiding in the corner. Both players from Brawlers are imping. Pretty decisive villager lead. Spring needs sort of a miracle. Like, these knights need to run into the base of Barles and kill 50 vills to have a chance here, I would say. And this is where I would go back and look at this quick wall. The quick wall that saved the wood eco of Barles. If we look at the game, Barles has lost only 5 vills, which is pretty impressive given how much pressure he was under. Spring, on the other hand, 25 villagers lost. That tells a lot. And part of the reason why Barles and Valas are not losing a lot of vills is because they're walled. These little stone walls over here, later on the quick walls, just the fact that you can limit the opponent's movement is enough. The good news for Spring and Dragonstar is that this map can actually go very long. So if the game somehow goes super long, there's maybe a chance for recovery, but Spring is so heavily set back in here. Now, this is a fight that Barles will have to take. He has nowhere to run, and he's gonna be up against Arbalasts in a moment, and that's a lot of crossbows that will go down the drain just before the Imperial Age upgrades would kick in. Other side, that's apparently the same thing here. This is a premature fight for Dragonstar, though he needs to retreat a little bit. There is no tumbling, I believe, for Dragonstar, but now he's gonna have Bracer, so he will take down most of those crossbows. Barles has lost so many crossbows before the Imp upgrades. Will it matter? Probably not. But still, that wasn't ideal for Barles over there. Now the Cavalier, or soon-to-be Cavalier, are coming in, and Dragonstar apparently not reacting to this one just yet. He needs a quick war here. He needs some quick wars over there. Castle in the middle from Barles. That would secure a position for his teammate to just go for the berries with Franks, which would be an insane food income for him. Plus the relics are also available. And with the dog going down, this is also open. Crossbows and knights break into the base of Dragonstar. Dragonstar has 29 crossbows, but all of them are here on the right side pretty much. So he's got no defense back at home. Those knights will just overrun him. He's trying to get the best quick wars as he can, but I mean, those will soon be Cavalier. Spring is at 56 villagers with 20 idols, because knights are still ravaging his economy. Valas is just everywhere with cavalry, and it very much seems like Dark Empire, the surprise team of the tournament, the team that defeated Kaposh and Lan, will actually fall to Barles and Valas over here. They lost to Aftermath, which was, I think, the expected result. This one was a moderately competitive set. I kind of feel like Spring and Dragonstar were less prepared for the special maps of the tournament compared to Barles and Valas. Barles and Valas really seem to have a very good game plan on these special maps. Canberra, Khasan, I think that was a solid game plan for both teams, but Canberra and also the Civilizations for Cape of Storms, I liked it a lot more for the team of Barles and Valas over here. Paladin being clicked by Valas. I think that just tells you how decisive of an advantage Barles and Valas are having. Funnily enough, the villager count is still pretty even. But that's because Barles has only 75 vills. The problem here for Barles and Valas is that, I mean, overall vill count is still pretty even. Now, how can Spring survive this? I have absolutely no clue. I have absolutely no clue. And there's a Faitoria for Barles. They have to be careful here. Because, sure thing, it looks like they have a big lead, but unless they start pushing, Spring could actually reboom, and he's actually getting closer to Imperial. Now, as I said, Spring is still quite a bit behind. But they need to be careful here. Because I've seen games being lost when they had massive leads. This should not be a game that's lost by Barles and Valas. I mean, there is Paladins running inside Spring's eco. Don't ask me why Spring is not walling. I think if you are Spring at this point, you have to make 5 layers of stone walls. Really. Just make stone walls and slow down the game. That's exactly what you want to do. You see that Dragonstar, now that he's an Imperial, he's allowed to send resources to his teammate. Doesn't matter because Spring's eco is getting absolutely wrecked, and what we discussed with others before this set is absolutely right. Spring needs to wall more. You don't wall, you die. That's the thing. And 62 villagers lost in the game. For reference, Barles has lost 5 and Valas have lost 6. Dragonstar, only 12. The common thing in these 3 players is that they all have evolved, at least to a certain extent. Spring's base was wide open, and here comes Valas with a castle drop. They are just going to finish this one off. I mean, Spring's at 40 vills, and sure thing, the villager count of Dragonstar is amazing, and Barles doesn't have his own vill count that high either, but the Paladin player needs to have the highest vill count, that's the thing. So, on Spring's team, the cavalry player is pretty much dead. On the other team, we have a fully boomed Frankish Paladin player, and finally, Dark Empire decides to give up. They actually surprised Barles and Valas in the Arabia game, and I think they played well. It was just a matter of, as I said, I kind of felt like either for Canberra or Cape of Storms, Barles and Valas had a better game plan. Still, Dark Empire was the last seeded team in their group, so there is not a massive surprise when it comes to seeing them eliminated. But they made a good run in this tournament. I think their highlight was actually the qualifiers, defeating Lan and Kaposh. Then they lost to AM, and now they fall to the Brawlers. I kind of feel like if we have to get some conclusions, I can just repeat myself. Spring needs to wall more. I am a big voler myself, so obviously I'm in the support of making a lot of vols, but especially in high-level competitive Age of Empires, even if you don't fully vol yourself, you at least need to get some vols going to contain damage. And yeah, Spring actually made a couple of gates, sure, but those are very, very easily broken through. Just look at what Valas did, for example. Power side walls reinforced by houses. He had some open parts, but when you wall your left side with double layers, you guarantee that they won't break in here. So you can just focus all your forces on the right side. Same thing here for bars. Stone wall here, a layer of houses in the market here, just to limit the movement of the opponent. That's all you need. And that never was a thing for Spring here. You see that after those gates, which are basically made out of cardboard, they are so weak, go down, his base is wide open. So, for example, after losing a bunch of villagers, when they seem like they have a chance to counterattack, if he makes a stone wall here and a stone wall here, or just a stone wall here, for example, maybe even a stone wall here as well, he would have had a safe goat here at the back. As I said, I'm a big bowler myself, but I just feel like the reason why this game was over for Dark Empire is because Spring has lost 69 villagers. And that tells you a lot about how much his eco was pressured. And if you would actually not count that 69 villagers, he would be at a good will count. So he just got overrun by army, and then it snowballs out of control. He was never able to recover, fell back in imp timing, so he was playing knights versus paladins, and there was no turning back from that point on.